Hey, we're back from the road trip. Welcome back to The Pull. I'm your host, AJ Kunze. I've been thinking a lot about how to make this channel and this show bigger. Like, what do we not have that the big, successful shows do have? And I came up with only one thing: a theme song. But if you guys have seen the show before, you know I'm not super great with the fun animations and the photoshopping and the anything. But if the internet has taught us one thing, is you don't need talent. You can just steal other people's shit. So rather than put together my own theme song, I'll just fucking steal someone else's. I think the choice of which theme song to steal is obvious. So here you go, the new theme song to The Pull. Take a look, it's a comic book. You're watching The Pull, 'cause you're the best. Yeah, thumbs up. Pinwheel. Boom, did it. I have all the money now. Somebody call the Lamborghini bookshelf guy. Tell him he's fired. String Divers, go! String Divers is a book that is desperately trying to capture the feel of a Saturday morning cartoon. And as far as charm and novelty of an elevator pitch goes, it's pretty fucking successful. This book is about a team of androids that look like the rainbow sherbet version of Jabberwocky. Their job is to shrink down to subatomic levels and basically manage the chaos going on inside of atoms and molecules and Higgs bosons. I love books that do that black science thing, where they kind of leave themselves open to the lost in space ideal, where at any time you can go to any different dimension or world and have limitless possibilities open to how you're going to tell your story. String Divers is kind of successful at that right off the bat. It posits that when those string divers shrink down, they can like go to any crazy weird world. The first world is full of crystals and bats. So you're thinking success, right? First issue comic book, sets up a novel idea, you love it. 10 thumbs up, hooray. No. Almost immediately, the book begins to fall apart. First off, the book tries to base itself around string theory, yet the book understands string theory about as well as the chick from The View understood vaccines. But the real fault is basically right away when one of the string divers dies. Yes, the string diver dies. It's not a spoiler. It happens like in the first couple pages. I don't remember what page it is. It's this page. No one cares. Anyway, once that string diver dies, the rest of the string divers go back to normal size and we're introduced to like the normal human cast, who informs us that, oh, that guy died and it's not really a big deal. We'll just grow another one. If there's no consequence to death or failure, why should we care? The book literally tells us that at the end of every mission, they could just take all the string divers and throw them into a ninja food processor and then grow a whole new team. You know, like you would grow those little sponge dinosaurs from the pills that you would buy at, you know, the grocery stores. You know what I'm talking about? Fuck it, whatever, I'm old. The book is mildly successful in creating sort of that tone-deaf, semi-funny banter that shows like Power Rangers had, but it's not enough to save it. And I really want to like this book. I love its concept. I love the feel it's sort of going for, but it under-executes so much. And as much as I love the bones of this series, I'm not holding a lot of hope for it. In the last issue of Walking Dead, shit got rizzle. I try to get hip with that and it just didn't work. In this issue, the big events from the previous issue really get to blossom. And like all Walking Dead issues, it really, really delivers on its powerful emotional moments. This issue in particular delivers the most punchy emotional moments we've seen since issue 100. Issue 100 being the issue that broke my heart harder than any comic book has ever broken it before. This book continues to find new and interesting positions to put its characters in. Even after 100,036 issues, or however fucking long the series is. Walking Dead is still here, it's still relevant, and it's still great. Batman number whatever. Recent Batman revelations have left little holes and mysteries in the greater story. This issue really goes and fills them in. This issue delivers on the origins of Bruce Wayne's new beard, and on the reason that Bruce Wayne is alive and not crushed into hummus. The more fleshed out establishment of the series' new status quo is interesting, but it's delivered to us all at once, and it's kind of powerful and overwhelming. The good news is, the reason it did that is because the rest of the issue is so interesting and compelling and full of new stuff that it kind of just wants to get all the old stuff out of the way. Get it out of here. It's old and smelly and wrinkly and full of liver spots. Of all of the great stuff that Scott Snyder has done with Batman, I found his Court of the Owl stuff the most interesting because it was him adding to the Batman mythos rather than playing with all the pieces that were already there. That feeling is recaptured. We introduce a new villain, Mr. Bloom, who is goddamn terrifying. He's this combination of like Slender Man and a dandelion. He's terrifying and interesting and completely unknown. And the places that talented people like Capullo and Snyder can take him are limitless. So Alan Moore took time off from his busy schedule of egging DC comic book headquarters and beard collecting to actually write some comic books. Providence is the latest work from this comic book genius. And 3 issues in, it's really great. I'm going to try to do my best here to summarize this complex spinning plot that Alan Moore's thought up. In Prohibition-era New York, a newspaper writer becomes obsessed with the idea of writing a novel about a real-world occult tome. He tirelessly researches it, and the more he researches it, and the closer he gets to the truth behind this mysterious historical book, the weirder shit starts to get. And it slowly develops this Lovecraftian psychological horror to it. Like all of Alan Moore's work, it is just packed with awesome dialogue, big ideas, and literary references. Also, like Watchmen and several other of his books, he uses a lot of cross-media work, usually mixing in the main character's journal, often up to like 12 pages of it per issue. I mean, each issue of these is pretty long. I think this one's like 44 pages or something. It's also a really beautiful book. I read a book by Alan Moore, it's more of a pamphlet, about how he writes comic books. He talks about his process and about how when comic books appear to him in his head, they are like a movie. So when he writes them, he writes them very cinematically. He writes them like a director or a screenwriter trying to set up a shot. And you can totally see that in this book. Everything about each panel is very deliberate. From the angle we view it at to the details packed into each image. All this dialogue and all of this hyper detail go together to create a great book. It also comes together to create a freaking dense book. I'm talking depleted uranium or the center of the sun or fucking Guinness dense. It is not approachable. It does not talk down to you. You have to pay attention to every single line, to every single detail to get the real full experience. And it is packed with world building and history and and it can get out of hand really quick. This series has been built on a slow burn of horror, and it kind of jumps the shark in this issue when it delves into Twin Peaks style surrealism. There's been this slow build-up, not really showing what the actual boogeyman monster is or whatever, and then all of a sudden, boom, craziness and dongs everywhere. Crazy dongs, crazy. But luckily this is, you know, a dream sequence. It kind of goes there and then moves out of it pretty quickly, and we're back to the slow, well-paced horror that the book has been built on. This book is something that I would definitely recommend that you guys check out. But because it's such a dense, complex read, I'd probably recommend that you wait to the trade. That way you can read it all at once and not get lost month to month. I love just stumbling upon books and having my goddamn mind blown by them. This is what happened when I read Boy-1, or to any other people in the military out there, Boy-1. Part of the reason that Boy-1 kind of blew my mind so hard is because initially it's playing in fairly familiar territory. It posits a future where humankind is trying to reach its next tier of existence through cloning, and then, you know, that's probably not gonna go great. Something's gonna happen. It's gonna turn evil. Robots are gonna happen or something. Anyway, this sounds familiar. Fucking, you made an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie about it, for Christ's sake. But Boy-1 really shows you that's not about the elevator pitch. It's not about the concept. It's about the execution. It takes this very broad and kind of honestly trite concept and almost immediately pushes past it. The focus is on the main character, Jadis or Jadis, or one of those weird future sci-fi names that is needlessly not John. And instead focuses on the people working to do this megalomaniac clone thing. Because it understands that sci-fi is, yes, only as strong as its idea, but all ideas come from people, and they all affect people. Why is shit like Primer and Looper great? Well, because the characters are interesting and you give a shit what happens to them. That's what Boy-1 gets. Rather than focusing on the cloning, we focus on why the character of Jadis, fuck it. I'm just gonna call him Humphrey because that's a real name. To me, the most powerful scene in this book is one where Humphrey and his boy Zordon here are having a conversation about the more intricate moral things going on behind the idea of cloning a human being. And Floaty Face here brings up a very good and very pragmatic view of sort of human relationship with science. He brings up the point that human beings don't push science forward because it's a holy endeavor or because human beings exist to simply reach the next milestone in their own existence. Human beings push science forward because It's what they do. They have a natural momentum, a natural agency to how they progress through their own existence. So if Humphrey doesn't clone someone, it doesn't fucking matter. Someone else will come along and they'll do it. So boom, Boy-1 all of a sudden gives itself permission to move past its own science fiction concepts and move on to its more personal, character-driven moments. It pushes the focus away from highfalutin, cloning nonsense and focuses more on what Humphrey Jadis person's relationship with his father is, relationship with his past, how he can fill in the holes in his own life. And all of a sudden the book doesn't become just another science fiction story, it becomes an interesting, character-driven piece of literature. Will this book make the most of the promises set up in issue 1? No idea. All I can tell you is that the bones of something really special and really smart lie here. So yes, this is the part of the show where we normally do pull Ds, but as you can see, no fancy border here on the side and no pull Ds. I've decided to get rid of this section. I really felt like it slowed down the show. I felt like it was really not that interesting. I had to kind of make up stuff to say about books that I really didn't have anything to say about, and it was a pain to edit with all the little assets everywhere and everything, and so I'm just not going to do it. Don't worry, you can still get a more comprehensive look at all of comic books here at Video Game Time Machine. We have a movie pilot page, and every Monday I post a bullet review page where I go over and do one paragraph basically on every comic book that I read that week, usually about 10 or 15 comic books. I'll start including those links in the description of the videos. So if you want, you guys can go there and get a more comprehensive look for that week of comic books, at least how I saw it. However, the one part of Pull These that will remain is the trade recommendation section. As far as trades that came out this week, the third trade for Black Science is out. Trade is probably the best way to read Black Science. It kind of spins in on itself, and it's kind of good to have everything all there at once. And as far as a trade recommendation for something that didn't come out this week, check out Necronomicon. It was one of the more recent series by Alan Moore, and it kind of shares some of the thematic horror elements with Providence. It almost feels like a prequel to Providence in a lot of ways, even though it technically happens in modern times, so it would have to happen after Providence. Oh, what am I talking about? Anyway, check it out. It's surprisingly underrated for an Alan Moore book. Let me know what you're thinking about the show. Let me know ways I can improve it. And let me know what you think about these books and all the other books that came out this week. And while you're on the computer doing your commenting thing, why not follow me on Twitter and the channel on Facebook? You can use any of those forums to recommend a For Every New Subscriber joke to me. So for you guys who haven't done that, so you guys suffer through another one of my shitty ones. For every new subscriber we get this week, I will punch Geno Smith in the face once. Make sure you guys come back next Sunday and every Sunday that have time for another episode of The Pull and get out of here. And go drink bourbon. Really delicious.